Hello, and welcome to Mrs. T. Fox Resources on YouTube. And today we're focusing on negative space. This is one of my all-time favorite lessons to teach. It gives students a new way of looking at something. It also hones their observational skills. And the end goal for all drawing instruction, in my humble opinion, is life drawing. So kids are eventually going to be drawing from life, and they're going to need to understand how to observe an object in space and maintain the proportions while they're scaling it up onto the two-dimensional surface. If they understand negative space and they understand the relationships between the parts of an object, it makes it much easier for them to observe something in space and draw it. I am always about building confidence in every one of my artists. I spend about 3 weeks on the unit. We start with a very simple stool, and then we move to the negative space plant and chair, which you can see some examples behind me. And then we move on to a simple observational drawing, usually a ladder or a couple of stools or a chair from the classroom. And then once they're finished with that, we move on to value.
All right, we're going to be drawing these white spaces, and we're going to be skipping over everything that is positive. All of the white spaces are negative space. They are the space around the ladder. The ladder is the positive space. So negative space, positive space. When we're finished, you won't see any of these lines inside the ladder because we're going to skip over the entire shape of the ladder. There's a really light gray printed grid on here. I don't know if you can see it. The reason I printed it so lightly on the worksheets, there are 20 worksheets. There are 35 reference photos to choose from, and they're all different skill levels. There are 2 sets of 20 worksheets, and one set has a rubric, and the other set has a reflection. So depending on which way you want to go with the exercise, you have those 2 options. I also have included a sheet that has 2 rubrics and a sheet that has 2 reflections in case you want to cut those in half and add a reflection stapled on to the worksheet that has the rubric, or vice versa. All worksheets have a printed frame already on the worksheet. When you are finished, you just cut out the finished drawing. It's already framed, and you hang it up for a gorgeous wall display. I'm going to use negative space drawing scales. I'm also going to use this grid to maintain my proportions. So I'm going to start with this big triangle. If you're wondering how far down do I know to go before I stop with this line, I'm looking at my quadrant and I'm seeing this point. This is what I was talking about in the intro. You have to see the relationships between the points and all the other places in the object. In this case, we also have a grid to help us get our proportions correct. So this cuts across this quadrant and it goes right to the corner. You could even start from the corner and come back and sort of connect the dots. There's our first shape. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to skip over where the ladder is. I'm going to skip the width of the ladder. I'm going to put this little edge of this white shape in because it crosses over the line, the grid line. This is a long, narrow, trapezoidal kind of a shape. Comes right up, this side of it comes up and meets the edge. Then this side, just sort of sighting this to make sure I'm approximately in the right place. Usually these things have to get moved a little bit, so I'm just drawing super light. I'm skipping over the ladder. Come down here. See where this intersects the outside of the picture plane. That's how we know where to start there. And this is how we know where to stop. We're going to look at this quadrant. Looks like it's about right here, probably a quarter of the way in. And we're going to draw the upper side of this triangle. This has to line up with this. If this shape is really wide and this shape is narrow and these two edges of these shapes don't line up, then something's wonky. This little line right here, this edge of this white shape, is the outer side of this ladder, so it needs to line up with this. I feel like this guy right here might be a little too long, so I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit. This little triangle inside of this quadrant needed to be a little bit bigger. So I had that way too long. It was lining up with this and it needed to line up more with this. So that's the relationship that I'm having to recognize. And when this guy comes down here, this shape is really weird. It kind of comes down. These things have to line up. And then this has to line up with this. Look, we did that correctly. Like if you come down here and you put this line up here and it doesn't line up with this, it's going to be wonky. So where everything crosses over, it's going to stay completely white. Erase as many of the stray pencil lines as you can because we're adding colored pencil. Sometimes the colored pencil can look dirty if it gets mixed in with the graphite.
Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel because there's more content on the way.